All right, so today we're going to be diving in to a topic that I think is going to spark some really interesting conversation.
Okay.
And that is why some younger women, are drawn to older men. So we're going way beyond, just those typical cliches that people always say.
Right.
And really kind of dig into some of the potential psychological and sociological reasons.
Okay.
And for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at an excerpt from a Spanish text.
Interesting.
It's called Why Young Women Seek Older Men, The Unfiltered Truth.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it gets pretty real.
It does.
Yeah.
What I find really interesting about this source is that it really challenges those surface level explanations, the ones that we always hear. And it actually dives into like these deeper motivations that suggest there might be more to this dynamic than we initially thought.
For sure. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
The source kicks things off by talking about emotional maturity.
Okay.
And it seems to paint this picture of older men as having this inherent stability, especially when compared to, well, let's just say less experienced partners.
Right. And it's not just about avoiding drama, though I think we can all appreciate a little less of that in our lives.
Absolutely.
But the source really seems to suggest that older men might have a different approach to conflict altogether.
Okay.
They've had years and years of navigating these really complex situations, both, professionally and personally.
Yeah.
And that's probably equipped them with better tools to manage disagreements effectively.
That's a really interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about, keeping their cool.
Right.
It's actually about developing these really nuanced conflict resolution skills.
Exactly.
Over time.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it fair to generalize like that, though?
Well, like with any generalization, we have to keep in mind that everyone's experience is going to be different.
Of course.
But I do think that this source raises a valid point about the potential link between life experience and emotional intelligence.
Okay, that makes sense. And speaking of experience, the source also highlights just its overall allure. Older men have stories, wisdom, a whole different perspective to offer.
Exactly. And they emphasize that it's not about being told what to do.
Right.
But it's more about having someone who can give guidance without being controlling.
Right.
Someone who's been there, done that, and can offer insights based on their own journey.
Yeah, it's like having a built-in mentor.
Yeah.
But in a romantic context.
Exactly.
And the source seems to imply that this can be especially attractive when you compare it to the insecurities or uncertainties that can sometimes come with partners who are maybe still figuring things out themselves.
Right. And it goes back to that idea of seeking stability and feeling grounded in the relationship. And, the source also doesn't shy away from another potentially controversial factor, finances.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. But it seems like it's more nuanced than just, wanting a sugar daddy.
Exactly. The source makes a really crucial distinction between being wealthy and being financially stable.
Right.
It's more about having your life in order.
Yeah.
Which can be incredibly attractive, especially in today's world where, so many people are dealing with financial pressure.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially younger generations.
Yeah.
Who, are dealing with student debt, a tough job market.
Absolutely.
All those anxieties that come with that. So having a partner who can offer a sense of security, both emotionally and financially, could be super appealing.
Absolutely. It's about, that feeling that you're building a life together on solid ground.
For sure. And the source even suggests that this stability can enhance other aspects of the relationship too.
Oh, yeah.
Like confidence and charisma.
Definitely.
Okay, now this is where it gets juicy.
Okay.
The source talks about this attractive aura of confidence that often comes with age and experience.
Yeah.
It's like they've established themselves in the world and they don't need to prove anything anymore, which can be a huge turn on.
Right. And it's not about arrogance.
Right.
It's more like this quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. The source suggests that this translates into how they communicate, how they carry themselves, even how they approach relationships.
So it's like they're not seeking constant validation or trying to impress everyone they meet.
Exactly.
Which can be so refreshing.
It can.
Especially if you've been in relationships where there's a lot of insecurity or game playing.
Yeah, they're comfortable in their own skin, and that can be really magnetic.
Yeah.
The source even hints that this can be a form of validation for the younger partner.
Oh, interesting.
It's like, hey, if this amazing, confident person chooses to be with me, maybe I'm pretty great too.
Yeah, it's like a self-esteem boost.
Yes.
Built right into the relationship.
Exactly.
And this kind of ties into another point that the source brings up, which is this desire for peace and tranquility in a relationship.
Yes. I think you'll appreciate this one.
I think I will.
The source suggests that for older men, those ego battles and power struggles, they've kind of lost their appeal.
Right.
They're more interested in having peace and harmony.
Okay, so they've reached that point where they value serenity over drama. Now, that's a concept I can get behind.
Right.
Do you think that comes with age, or is it more about personality?
He's probably a mix of both.
Yeah.
But I do think the source makes a really good point about how life experience can really shape our priorities as we get older.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us crave that sense of peace, especially in our relationships. It's exhausting to always feel like you're on edge.
Totally. And speaking of things that we crave in relationships, the source also talks about commitment.
Okay.
And how older men might actually have like a totally different perspective on it.
So you mean they're not all commitment phobes running away from responsibility?
Well, the source seems to challenge that stereotype a bit. It suggests that older men, because they've had more time to explore different options and really figure out what they want, might actually be more ready to embrace commitment. It's like they're not afraid of settling down because they've already kind of settled into themselves.
That makes sense.
If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, it's like they've had their adventures learn from their experiences.
Right.
And now they're at a place where they're looking for something more meaningful and lasting.
Exactly. And they might also just like have a deeper appreciation for the stability and the comfort that a committed relationship can bring. It's not about limiting their freedom.
Right.
But it's about like actively choosing to share their life with someone special.
It's like a total shift in perspective. It's not about what they're giving up.
Right.
It's about what they're gaining from it. And, the source also touches on something that I think a lot of people find attractive.
Okay.
Which is intelligence and cultural awareness.
Yes. The allure of a really stimulating conversation.
Exactly.
The source actually goes into like the evolutionary psychology behind it.
Oh, wow.
Suggesting that intelligence has always been a desirable trait because it signals resourcefulness and problem-solving abilities.
Right.
And, just the ability to navigate all of life's challenges.
It makes total sense.
Yes.
Just say, think about those late night talks.
Yes.
Where you're like, wow, my mind is being stretched.
Yeah.
Like your horizons are expanding.
Yeah.
And you're connecting on such a deep level.
It's so invigorating.
It is.
Yeah.
And the source emphasizes that it's not just about like having all this knowledge.
Yeah.
But it's about being curious, open-minded, and willing to engage in those thought-provoking discussions.
Exactly, that intellectual spark.
Yes.
That ability to really challenge each other and grow together.
And speaking of growth, the source also highlights how older men might have different life priorities.
Okay.
Which can be really appealing.
Yeah, it's not about chasing trends or needing that external validation. They've done all that. They've been there, done that. And they realize that fulfillment comes from something much deeper.
Yeah.
The source suggests that they might be more focused on genuine connection, meaningful experiences, and building a life that really aligns with their values.
So instead of trying to impress everyone on social media,
right,
they're more interested in those deep, intimate conversations.
Yes.
Exploring shared interests, creating memories that will actually last.
Exactly. And that can be super attractive to someone who's looking for something more substantial.
For sure.
Than just like surface level stuff. The source poses this really thought-provoking question. What do you value more in a partner? Fleeting excitement or deeper meaning?
That is a great question.
It's really about, figuring out what aligns with your own priorities.
That's such an important point. And, this leads us to a topic that often comes up when we talk about age gaps.
Okay.
Now, that's the idea of an older man knowing how to treat a woman.
Now, I know this might sound cliche, but the source really isn't talking about those outdated notions of chivalry or like patronizing behavior.
Okay.
It's more about genuine care, respect, and attention to detail.
Okay, I see the distinction.
Yeah.
So it's not about, making grand gestures or trying to save anyone.
No.
It's about those small, thoughtful actions that really show you're paying attention.
Yes.
and that you truly value your partner.
Exactly. And the source suggests that older men with all their life experience might actually be more tuned into those nuances. You know, they've had more time to kind of develop their emotional intelligence and understand the subtle ways to nurture a relationship.
Yeah, it's like they've had more time to hone those skills.
Exactly. And you know, the source also brings up this interesting point about power dynamics.
Okay.
It suggests that older men, because they're already established in their careers and lives, might be less likely to get caught up in those power struggles.
Right.
That can sometimes happen in relationships.
So it's not about control or dominance. It's about approaching the relationship as equals
Exactly.
with mutual respect, understanding, and, a willingness to compromise.
It's about creating a true partnership
Yeah,
where both people feel heard and valued and empowered.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be incredibly refreshing,
They can.
especially if you've been in relationships where there's this constant battle for control
Right.
or validation.
Yeah.
It seems like what the source is ultimately saying
Yeah.
is that it's not really about age itself, but it's about the qualities and experiences that often come with it.
Yes. Things like maturity, stability, confidence, thoughtfulness.
Right.
Those are attractive qualities in any partner,
Totally.
regardless of their age.
Yeah, it really feels like the source is challenging us to look past, those superficial assumptions that we make.
Right.
And really consider those deeper qualities that actually make for a strong and fulfilling connection.
Totally. And it makes me think about how often, we get so focused on the age difference itself.
Yeah.
Like that's the main thing that defines the relationship.
Right. When in reality, it's probably more about, those shared values, life experiences, and the emotional maturity that each person brings to the table.
It's like we're getting so caught up in the optics rather than the substance of the relationship.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's a really, really insightful point,
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in societal expectations or judgment.
Totally.
But when it comes down to it, what matters most is the quality of the connection and whether both people feel fulfilled and respected.
100%. It's a good reminder to always focus on what truly matters in any relationship, regardless of age. Speaking of which, the source actually wraps things up with a pretty powerful statement.
Right.
It says that the real secret isn't actually biological age, but mental and emotional maturity.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to kind of sum up the core message,
Yeah.
It's not about finding someone older or younger. It's about finding someone who embodies those qualities.
Right. That really contribute to a healthy, supportive, fulfilling partnership.
So while this particular source was specifically focused on why some younger women might be drawn to older men,
Yeah.
could we apply these same ideas to really any relationship dynamic?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely worth considering.
Yeah.
Could those qualities like emotional maturity, stability, confidence, respect shared values, could those be equally attractive in any partner, regardless of their age or even their gender?
It's like we've unlocked the secret code
Right.
to relationship success.
The secret formula.
Yeah. But seriously, it's fascinating to think about how these qualities transcend those traditional categories and really get to the heart of what makes a connection work.
It reminds us that we all have the power to develop those qualities within ourselves.
For sure.
We can learn from our experiences. We can work on how we communicate and really strive to become the best partners that we can be. And, even though we've explored some pretty complex stuff today, I think it's ultimately a hopeful message.
Yeah.
Because it shows that we have more control over our relationship destinies than we might think.
100%. It's not about finding the perfect person.
Right.
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then seeking out partners who share our values.
Exactly.
And, maybe this deep dive sparked some self-reflection for you.
Maybe.
Got you thinking about those qualities that you really value in a partner. Or maybe even inspired you to work on some of those things within yourself.
Right.
And just remember, this was just one perspective based on, the source that we explored today.
Yes.
There's always more to learn and discover when it comes to relationships.
Always.
So keep those conversations going. Keep challenging your assumptions.
Exactly.
And never stop exploring.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a new thought-provoking topic. Until then, happy exploring.